In an alternate timeline where the Arab conquest never reached Persia, the identity of the ancient empire would have followed a remarkably different path. Persia, already one of the world's most advanced and organized civilizations, would have continued its development without the cultural and political shift that came in the 7th century. Instead of being reshaped by external forces, the empire would have grown from its own roots, guided by its historic traditions, scientific institutions, and philosophical worldview. The Sasanian Empire, though facing internal pressures, would likely have survived longer through reforms in governance and military strategy. Its administrative systems, known for their complexity and efficiency, would have expanded into more stable structures. Without the abrupt collapse brought by invasion, the empire would have had the time to strengthen its economy, reinforce its borders, and modernize its institutions. Persian language and culture would have remained uninterrupted. Middle Persian, written in its ancient scripts, would have evolved naturally into a modern form, developing new vocabulary and literature from within its own linguistic heritage. Instead of blending heavily with foreign words, the language would have preserved the rhythm, expressions, and grammar of its pre-Islamic past, creating a uniquely continuous linguistic tradition. Spiritually, Persia would have continued along its own historical path. Zoroastrianism, with its emphasis on moral responsibility, nature, and balance, would have remained the central belief system, though likely adapted over time. Philosophers and scholars would have debated new interpretations, allowing their religion to evolve slowly and organically. Regional beliefs, older myths, and local traditions would have coexisted without being overshadowed by a new dominant faith. This continuity would have shaped a society with a deep connection to its ancient past. Scientific progress in this alternate Persia would likely have been extraordinary. Centers like the Academy of Gundishapur, famous for medicine, astronomy, and mathematics, could have become world-leading universities. Research in healing, engineering, and natural sciences might have advanced centuries earlier. The empire's strong tradition of record-keeping and translation would have attracted scholars from across Asia and Europe, turning Persia into a major intellectual crossroads. Economically, Persia's role along the Silk Road would have grown even stronger. Its strategic position between East and West would have allowed it to control important trade routes, expand its influence, and accumulate wealth. Crafts, textiles, metals, and scientific knowledge would have spread widely, establishing Persia as a central force in global commerce. Ports along the southern coast could have become massive international hubs, linking the empire to distant regions across the seas. Architecturally, Persian cities would have continued developing their characteristic style. Large ceremonial halls, carved stone structures, lush gardens, and symbolic designs inspired by ancient myths. Instead of shifting toward new forms, architecture would have evolved from its original foundations, blending tradition with engineering innovation. Cities might have grown into monumental landscapes filled with harmony, symmetry, and artistic complexity. Politically, the empire might have experienced shifts, reforms, or even divisions, but its cultural identity would have remained consistent. Whether ruled by new dynasties or transformed into a different political system, the essence of Persian civilization, its language, philosophy, and collective memory, would have remained rooted in uninterrupted history. Globally, the absence of the Arab conquest would have altered scientific and cultural exchanges. Many ideas that later traveled westward through the Islamic world might have emerged directly from Persian academies. European knowledge, trade, and diplomacy might have evolved differently with Persia, playing an even greater role in shaping international relations. Above all, a Persia untouched by the conquest would have carried a continuous sense of identity. Its festivals, stories, art, and values would have grown from the same soil that nourished the empire for thousands of years. Instead of rebuilding after trauma, the civilization would have expanded steadily through its own creativity and strength. In this alternate world, Persia would stand not only as a nation, but as an unbroken legacy, an ancient flame preserved across millennia, shaping the world through wisdom, resilience, and an enduring cultural spirit. And as Persia moved forward through this uninterrupted path, its influence on surrounding regions would have grown steadily. Neighboring kingdoms might have adopted elements of Persian governance, literature, and scientific practice, creating a wider cultural sphere shaped by centuries of accumulated knowledge. Trade routes would have carried not only goods but also ideas, philosophies, medical discoveries, architectural methods, and artistic traditions, spreading the unique character of Persian civilization far beyond its borders. Through peaceful evolution rather than sudden transformation, the empire would have developed its own answers to the challenges of the medieval and early modern world. Innovations in agriculture, engineering, and education would have shaped everyday life, allowing society to adapt while still remaining deeply connected to its origins. In this alternate history, Persia becomes not just a strong empire, but a continuous beacon of stability, an ancient identity growing steadily into a modern one, defined by wisdom, creativity, and an unbroken cultural soul.